The acquaintance between two future leaders, whose names would later become firmly established in history, began in the mid-1950s. It was a time of grandiose projects, the development of virgin and fallow lands. In those days, Kazakhstan, a vast, boundless land resembling an open palm, was the focus of attention throughout the Soviet Union. Leonid Brezhnev arrived here in the Republic, whose leader at the time, as chairman of the Council of Ministers of the Kazakh SSR, was Dinmukhamed Kunaev. His task was to oversee this large-scale project, give it new impetus, and breathe life into the endless steppes. Kunaev, a man of refined manners and profound knowledge, met Brezhnev, who at that time was not yet burdened with the full weight of supreme power, but already radiated extraordinary energy and determination. They traveled extensively throughout the Republic, inspecting the state farms under construction and talking to the first settlers, whose faces were weathered by the winds of the steppes and scorched by the sun. During these trips, in endless conversations about pressing problems and plans for the future, they developed not just a working relationship, but a truly trusting one. In addition to official meetings and conferences, they were united by another passionate hobby, hunting. On the hunt, where every step requires attention and success depends on composure and mutual understanding, their friendship grew stronger and took on new dimensions. It was these hours spent together, far from the hustle and bustle, that laid the foundation for a future that proved stronger than any political alliance. This deep personal connection played a truly key role in the fate of Dinmukhamed Kunaev. After Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev, for his own reasons, removed Kunaev from the post of head of the Republic in 1960, it seemed that his political career had reached its peak and would now decline. However, fate had other plans. Just 4 years later, in 1964, when Leonid Brezhnev took the highest position in the party, becoming first secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, he did not forget his old comrade. Shortly after coming to power, Brezhnev reinstated Dinmukhamed Kunaev as the leader of Kazakhstan. This decision was not just a personnel reshuffle, it was a vivid testimony to the strength of their personal friendship and mutual trust, which proved to be stronger than any bureaucratic intrigues. For the Moscow leadership, and especially for Leonid Ilyich Brezhnev, Dinmukhamed Kunaev was not just the leader of one of the Union republics. He became a guarantor of stability and predictability in Kazakhstan, a republic that was of enormous strategic importance to the entire Soviet Union. It was a huge region stretching from the Caspian Sea to Altai, rich in natural resources and playing a key role in the space program with Baikonur, as well as in the country's agricultural and industrial development. In that era, which later became known as the stagnation period, stability was valued above all else. Any unrest, whether political or interethnic, could upset the fragile balance of this vast country. And here, under Kunaev, Kazakhstan truly became a kind of safe haven. Dinmukhamed Kunaev, with his deep understanding of local specifics and keen political intuition, personally controlled all key appointments in the republic. He built a powerful and, most importantly, loyal administrative hierarchy. This meant that from the highest level to the district level, personnel were selected in such a way as to ensure the unquestioning execution of decisions made by the center. Any order from Moscow, any directive, passed through this well-oiled system and was carried out without delay. Such efficiency and loyalty completely suited Brezhnev, allowing him to be confident in the stability and development of a strategically important region. For the Kremlin, where any deviation from the course could arouse suspicion, such a model of governance was invaluable. Under the leadership of Dinmukhamed Kunaev, who ruled the republic for a quarter of a century, Kazakhstan experienced a period of truly impressive economic growth. It was a time when the land seemed to reveal its riches, and human labor transformed the steppes. The republic's industrial potential grew several times over, which was the result of a targeted policy of industrialization and development. Hundreds of new factories and enterprises, from metallurgical giants to light industry, were built and put into operation. The richest deposits of minerals such as oil, gas, coal, copper, and chromium were developed. These resources became the basis for a powerful industrial base, not only meeting the needs of Kazakhstan, but also supplying raw materials to many regions of the Soviet Union. Along with factories and mines, whole new cities popped up. One cool example is the city of Shevchenko, now known as Aktau. Built on the Caspian Sea, it became the center for nuclear energy and the oil industry in the region, growing from a small village into a modern industrial hub. At a time when Moscow's centralized power seemed unshakable and ideological dogmas permeated every corner of the vast country, many might have thought that personal connections and national characteristics did not play a significant role in big politics. However, the story of Dinmukhamed Kunaev in Kazakhstan convincingly shows the opposite. His approach to governing the republic, combining loyalty to the center with a deep understanding of local realities, allowed him not only to remain in power for a quarter of a century, but also to become one of the most influential figures of his time. Kunaev, with his keen political instincts and deep knowledge of the specifics of his republic, consistently and purposefully promoted local Kazakh personnel to leadership positions. This was not just a coincidence or a tribute to fashion, but a well-thought-out strategy that bore fruit. He understood that in order to effectively manage such a vast and multinational region, it was necessary to rely on those who knew the land, the people, and their needs from the inside. Throughout the Republic, from ministerial posts in Almaty to collective farm chairmen in remote villages, Kunaev sought to place his compatriots who had the necessary qualifications and, importantly, the trust of the local population. This policy had a double effect. First, it significantly strengthened his support within the Republic. For many residents of Kazakhstan, Kunaev became not just a functionary from Moscow, but a national leader who sincerely cared about his people. In the Soviet system, where internationalism was proclaimed as one of the main principles, such attention to national personnel was particularly valuable. People saw that their compatriots were receiving education, climbing the career ladder, and occupying responsible positions, and this created a sense of justice and involvement in governance. Secondly, for the Moscow leadership, especially for Leonid Brezhnev, Kunaev's strategy served as proof of the success of Lenin's national policy. It demonstrated that in Kazakhstan, under the wise leadership of Dinmukhamed Ahmedovich, the principles of equality of nations were being successfully implemented, and the national republics are developing by training their own personnel. This was in line with official ideology and allowed the Kremlin to present Kazakhstan as a model of friendship between peoples and prosperity within the Soviet Union. No one in Moscow wanted to see unrest or discontent in such a strategically important republic, and Kunaev's personnel policy skillfully prevented such sentiments. Thanks to his support, science and education flourished in Kazakhstan. It was a time when new institutes and scientific centers were being established. For example, powerful research complexes were created in the fields of metallurgy, mining, petrochemistry, and agriculture. It was not just buildings that were being constructed, but entire scientific schools were being formed. Talented scientists from all over the Union were being attracted, and conditions were being created for cutting-edge research. Kunaev personally oversaw many scientific projects, regularly visited laboratories, communicated with scientists, and took an interest in their work and needs. Kunaev's power, which seemed so unshakable and solid, actually remained so only as long as his powerful patron, Leonid Brezhnev, was alive. Their personal friendship, which began on the Virgin Lands and was strengthened during hunting trips, was the invisible armor that protected Kunaev from any bureaucratic intrigues and attempts to remove him from power. While Brezhnev was at the helm, Kunaev could feel safe, knowing that his position in Kazakhstan was inviolable. However, in 1982, this era came to an end. With the death of Leonid Ilyich Brezhnev, a period of political turbulence began in the Kremlin. The country experienced the short but intense reign of Yuri Andropov, the former head of the KGB, who tried to restore order and fight corruption but quickly faded away due to illness. He was followed by Konstantin Chernenko, another elderly and ill leader whose reign was very short. These years, like the eve of a storm, showed the fragility of the old system and the need for change. And then, in 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev came to power. With his arrival in the Kremlin, a whole new wind began to blow. Gorbachev proclaimed a course of perestroika and the fight against stagnation, a term he used to describe the Brezhnev era. Everything associated with the old days, with slow but steady development, became the subject of criticism and revision. In this new reality, Kunaev, as one of the most prominent symbols and aksakals of the Brezhnev era, inevitably became one of the first targets of the new policy. For Gorbachev and his team, Kunaev was not just an old cadre. He was a banner of the past that had to be rolled up to clear the way for the future. His resignation in 1986 was a logical outcome of the change of power in the Kremlin. It was not Kunaev's personal decision or the result of his failures. It was a symbol of the beginning of a new chapter in the history of Kazakhstan and the entire Soviet Union. Kunaev's departure marked not only the end of his personal political career, but also the end of an entire era when personal connections could ensure immunity and stability. With his departure, the invisible armor created by his friendship with Brezhnev finally crumbled, showing that even the most unshakable structures can collapse under the pressure of a new force.